George Clooney is one of the world's cinematic icons, who has made his name through more than 4 decades of a remarkable career. He is an actor, director, and producer with unforgettable roles in Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, Gravity, The Descendants, Michael Clayton, and Argo. With his performance in Syriana, Clooney won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, a milestone that affirmed his exceptional talent. Not only on screen, he has also received 4 Golden Globes, including the Cecil B. DeMille Award honoring his outstanding career, and the Kennedy Center Honor 2022, proving his enduring artistic influence. Clooney was also a producer of Argo, the film that won the Oscar for Best Picture, demonstrating his creativity and vision beyond acting. He has also been involved in charitable and humanitarian campaigns, becoming a United Nations Messenger of Peace, co-founding the Clooney Foundation for Justice, helping disadvantaged children, refugees, and fighting for human rights. His films have grossed more than $8 billion worldwide, turning George Clooney into one of Hollywood's biggest commercial draws, as well as a symbol of perfection, intelligence, and artistic leadership. But behind that spotlight is a childhood full of challenges and silent loneliness. Clooney was born into an artistic family, with his father, Nick Clooney, a television journalist, and his mother, Nina Bruce Warren, a former beauty queen. But both were busy with work, constantly moving between cities, creating an unstable environment. From a young age, he had to learn to adapt on his own, facing disappointment, loneliness, and lack of emotional support, family pressure, early failures on screen, repeated rejections for roles, and the prying eyes of international media tested his will. But those difficulties forged his resilience, indomitable spirit, and determination to overcome adversity, turning George Clooney from a lonely boy into a Hollywood icon with inner strength and a timeless artistic vision. Before continuing, please hit like and leave a heart as a token of gratitude to George Clooney's challenging but resilient journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to explore the next part together, where we will delve deeper into the childhood upheavals and pains that forged his iron will. George Clooney grew up in a family closely tied to the arts, where the spotlight seemed to cover everything. But in reality, it was full of gaps and lack of attention. His father, Nick Clooney, was a busy television journalist, always moving from one studio to another, devoting most of his time to work and personal fame. His mother, Nina Bruce Warren, who was once a beauty queen and had her own career, also faced social pressures and expectations, making it impossible for her to always be there to care for and guide her children. Young George, although born into an environment that seemed rich in artistic quality, actually lacked the gestures of care, listening, and sense of security that any child needs to grow up. Every time the family moved, every afternoon when his parents were busy with their own work, George had to learn to adapt on his own, find joy on his own, and learn to deal with his mixed emotions without guidance. Those unstable childhood days made George face deep loneliness early on. He witnessed small family conflicts turn into heavy arguments, his parents' failures both personally and professionally, and the feeling that no one was really listening to him. Young Clooney realized that the laughter and joy that his peers had were luxuries for him. When his parents were indifferent or focused on work, George had to learn to accept the silence, seek comfort on his own, and form his own inner world. The psychological pressure from that childhood was not just loneliness, but also the fear of being abandoned, being forgotten amid the adults' busyness and expectations. In those days, every time he wanted his parents to praise or ask about him, he had to face their avoidance, or being too busy, creating a silent layer of trauma that Clooney carried with him through the years that followed. Those emotional gaps made George learn to be independent very early. He had to solve his homework on his own, manage his study time on his own, calm himself down when facing failure, and find small joys to comfort his soul. Every new room, every new school he transferred to, was a challenge for the boy to seek a sense of belonging somewhere. Clooney learned to observe the world around him, recognize what was reliable and what was just flashy on the surface, which later helped him develop sharp, subtle observation skills in life and art. When his parents argued or were disappointed with work, George quietly observed, learned to stay calm and balance his emotions on his own, turning instability into motivation to become stronger. That loneliness was not only a mental challenge but also shaped a resilient will, helping him later face career pressure, the spotlight, and early failures in his film career. Although the family environment lacked stability and affection, George Clooney never let loneliness completely overwhelm him. He learned to create his own moments of comfort, playing music, reading books, observing people around him, and forming his own principles about the world and people. Every time he witnessed his parents' failures or arguments, Clooney felt a great emptiness in his heart. But that very gap also forged his patience and observation skills, helping him learn to handle difficult situations without relying on others. Deep loneliness taught him that real strength comes from inner power, from the ability to self-comfort, overcome challenges on his own, and from meticulously observing the world around him. From those challenging childhood days, George Clooney began building the foundation for the person the world would later know. A Hollywood icon, a resilient artist, and a person who appreciates the deep values in life. The unstable childhood also made Clooney realize early the value of every moment, every relationship, and every opportunity. He learned to endure disappointment without losing curiosity and passion for art, learned to stay calm in tense situations, and trained his self-control. The mental pains from family, loneliness, and the feeling of lacking support from a young age were not just burdens, but also motivations that helped George develop perseverance, emotional intelligence, and inner strength, qualities that later helped him become a famous actor, director, and producer, while maintaining balance in his personal and family life. It was from those years of loneliness, pressure, and challenges that Clooney formed his fortitude, learned to stand firm when most had fallen, and created the foundation for his later cinematic, humanitarian, and fulfilling life achievements. George Clooney entered the acting world with tentative but promising steps, starting from small supporting roles in popular television series at the time, like The Facts of Life and Roseanne. These roles, although not noticed by many, were for George the first lessons about the harshness of Hollywood, where talent sometimes does not mean opportunity and success. Every time he held a script, stood in front of the camera, and performed a role, he felt the heavy pressure from himself. Had he been good enough, confident enough to survive in a highly competitive industry? The repeated rejections for roles were not only professional failures, but also mental cuts, making Clooney face self-doubt every day. He began to realize that even with talent, if he was not resilient and did not know how to endure failure, the path to the spotlight would always be distant. In these days, George learned to endure pressure and failure without letting them defeat his spirit. Every time he was rejected, he told himself to keep pushing, to keep challenging himself, and not to be allowed to collapse in front of judgments or refusals. He found ways to turn failure into motivation, using it to train his determination and willpower, turning every collision with Hollywood's harsh reality into a valuable lesson. The failed casting sessions, the small roles that were canceled or replaced by others, all became stepping stones, helping him learn patience, stay calm, observe and learn from every situation, skills that would later become an important part of his brilliant career. Along with enduring failure, Clooney actively developed diverse acting skills. He did not stop at supporting roles on television, but proactively learned different genres, from comedy and psychological drama to action roles. He observed his colleagues, learned to express subtle emotions through his eyes, gestures, the rhythm of dialogue, and even the way he stood in front of the camera, something that small roles could not clearly demonstrate. Every time he received a role, no matter how small, He poured all his heart and effort into turning the role into an opportunity to train his expressive ability, learning to control emotions and create a personal mark on screen. These experiences gradually formed a unique acting identity, both natural and sharp, helping Clooney stand out among countless other young actors in the industry. Along with practicing and learning, George also created internal challenges for himself, directly confronting the fear of failure, self-doubt, and the feeling of not being worthy. Every time he stood in front of a director or casting director, he felt the tension, sometimes seeming impossible to overcome, but thanks to the lonely childhood years and lessons from his family, Clooney knew how to stay calm, control his breathing, observe the other person, and show authenticity in the role. This process not only trained his acting skills but also increased his mental endurance, preparing him for greater challenges in his film career later. The early years in the television industry, with countless supporting roles, continuous rejections, and pressure from himself, gradually became the foundation for George Clooney to earn confidence, determination, and resilience. He realized that failure was not the end but an opportunity to learn, to try again, and to grow. The small supporting roles, the cut scenes, or the failed castings were no longer just pain, but became important stepping stones, helping him accumulate experience, develop his artistic identity, and create a solid foundation for his later roles on the big screen. Thanks to this persistent and enduring process, Clooney gradually found his own quality, the ability to turn pressure into creative energy, and laid the groundwork for a film career spanning decades, recognized with prestigious awards and global admiration. In every failure, Clooney learned to stand firm, self-reflect, and nurture his passion for art, turning loneliness and pressure into a never-ending motivation, a quality that would lead him to major turning points, from television to film, and becoming the Hollywood icon that the whole world knows. George Clooney stepped into a new chapter in his career when he landed the role of Dr. Strings, Doug Ross in the hit television series ER, a role that took him to international heights and turned the once lonely boy who failed in supporting roles into a globally sought-after star. This role was not only an opportunity to showcase his acting talent, but also a decisive turning point in shaping Clooney's Hollywood image, taking him from scattered roles to the television stage with bright lights, audience applause, and recognition from professionals. However, this fame came with tremendous pressures that few could see from the outside. Every red carpet appearance, every interview, every hours-long shooting scene placed Clooney in front of mental challenges, paparazzi lurking, public gossip, prying media headlines about his private life, and rumors about his personal life. Those curious eyes and lenses always pointed at him, sometimes made Clooney feel scrutinized, not only for his talent, but also for every gesture, every smile, or even private moments made public. That pressure did not only exist on screen, but also seeped into daily life, making Clooney feel a lack of real connection with people around him, even when standing among fans, colleagues, or friends. Deep loneliness hid in every busy moment, as he had to constantly move from one set to another, from daytime shoots to evening events, from the studio to global promotions. Although Clooney's public image always shone with a charming smile, elegant demeanor, and confident presence, inside, his mind was constantly tested. He had to balance work, fame, and private pressures, maintaining alertness, energy, and excellent acting ability in every scene, even when his body was tired and his spirit was stressed to the point of exhaustion. During his time working on ER, Clooney had to learn how to manage the pressure of fame while still keeping himself honest in his acting. He realized that becoming the center of media attention not only brought opportunities and fame, but also a mental burden, requiring him to constantly maintain his image, control his emotions, and stay calm in the face of public gossip and criticism. Every day on set was a silent battle with himself, excelling in the role while fighting fatigue, stress, and mental pressure. Clooney recalled late-night shoots, When everyone had gone home, he still had to focus, memorize lines, prepare for the next scene, and face the feeling of loneliness even when surrounded by colleagues and the production crew. Under that tremendous pressure, Clooney gradually developed the ability to endure and mental resilience, learning to transform fatigue and pressure into creative energy, creating performances that were both natural and captivating. He developed the ability to focus absolutely, trained his endurance and strong will, and at the same time learned to balance work and personal needs. These experiences not only helped him overcome the challenges of fame, but also taught Clooney the value of self-reliance, the ability to control emotions, and maintaining an optimistic spirit in the most stressful situations. Along with success on screen, Clooney's personal life continued to face challenges. Fame came with public scrutiny, dating rumors, pressure from public relationships, and public opinion, forcing Clooney to learn how to protect himself and maintain his privacy. He realized that even standing at the peak of fame, his heart and spirit still needed care, and fame could not fill the feelings of loneliness from his childhood. The years on ER taught Clooney that success is not just awards or stage lights, but also the ability to hold firm to himself, his will, and his character in the challenging environment. Those experiences on ER were also the foundation for Clooney to develop his film career later. From learning to endure the pressure of fame, facing public opinion, balancing work and personal life, to honing subtle acting skills, George Clooney turned every challenge into a valuable lesson, nurturing his persistent will and inner strength, helping him stand firm before greater upheavals in his career and life. It was precisely thanks to these years of tension, pressure, and loneliness that Clooney not only became an excellent actor, but also formed his fortitude, wisdom, and leadership ability, becoming a well-rounded Hollywood icon who shone on screen while maintaining his dignity and humanistic values in his private life. After Clooney achieved resounding success with the role of Dr. Doug Ross in ER, he decided to expand his career into film, wanting to conquer the big screen and affirm his diverse talent. However, the first steps in this field were not smooth at all. He took roles in films like From Dusk Till Dawn and Batman and Robin, works in which Clooney placed high expectations, but the results were completely opposite. From Dusk Till Dawn, although it later became a classic in the action-horror genre, at the time of its release, the reaction from critics was quite mixed, and Clooney was not yet truly recognized for his film acting ability. As for Batman and Robin, with the role of Batman, it was a complete failure both in revenue and professional evaluation, making Clooney the target of intense criticism from the press and fans. The disparaging comments, critical articles, and mocking laughter were not only aimed at the role, but also directed straight at the person himself, creating tremendous mental pressure that Clooney had never experienced in his television career. These early film failures were truly a mental shock. After many years of hard work on ER, being loved by the public and trusted by directors, receiving public criticism and continuous stoning made Clooney face feelings of disappointment, self-doubt, and mental tension. He realized that success on the television screen did not mean it was easy to conquer film. Audience tastes, commercial pressure, and Hollywood expectations were completely different challenges. For many weeks, Clooney had to evaluate himself, recognize his mistakes in acting, demeanor, script selection, and reconsider his career direction. On long nights after filming sessions, he often analyzed himself, learned from negative feedback, noted details of every acting error, and found ways to improve his skills, character building, and emotional depth in order to prepare for the next opportunities. What was important was that from these failures, Clooney learned the lesson of resilience and trained his will. Every criticism, every box office failure, no longer became a heavy pressure but turned into motivation for him to develop a more sustainable career. He realized that a film career was a long journey, not always smooth, and early stumbles would help him grow more mature and stronger in choosing roles, projects and ways of working with directors. Clooney began to carefully observe the success and failure factors of each film, learned to adapt to the harsh film environment, and at the same time trained his ability to withstand pressure from public opinion and the media. Those initial failures also helped Clooney develop a strategic vision in his career. He no longer chased every opportunity, but knew how to select roles suitable for his style and strengths, prioritizing scripts with deep characters and clear messages. This process also forged his patience and ability to control emotions, helping him overcome the fear of failure and maintain motivation. Clooney once shared that every time a role was criticized or a project failed, he told himself that this was not the end, but an opportunity to learn, to try again, and to prove his own ability. In the end, those initial failed steps became a solid foundation for Clooney's later advances. Thanks to those experiences, he knew how to prepare better for subsequent roles, from Out of Sight to Ocean's 11, and gradually built the image of a well-rounded film star who was talented, mature, and knew how to balance Hollywood lights with his personal life. The early failures were no longer wounds but became a source of strength, nurturing his will and determination, turning Clooney from a famous television actor into one of the most admired film icons in the world, while forming in him the ability to face any upheaval in life and career. After the initial failures on the big screen, George Clooney stepped into an important milestone in his career when he collaborated with director Steven Soderbergh in the film Ocean's 11 and the following parts, Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13. This was a turning point that not only marked his strong comeback after the previous flop roles, but also opened a period of thriving both commercially and artistically. In Ocean's 11, Clooney transformed into the character Danny Ocean, a sophisticated, intelligent, and irresistibly charming thief, bringing audiences the image of a mature, confident George Clooney who was captivating in every gesture. The film not only attracted a large global audience but also became a box office phenomenon, helping Clooney affirm his position among Hollywood's top stars. This success continued to be reinforced with Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13, where each role was invested with Clooney's heart and soul, maintaining his style, confidence, and subtle acting ability, contributing to creating a classic entertainment film series with hundreds of millions of dollars in global revenue. However, this brilliant success came with invisible but extremely heavy pressures. Clooney had to face the pressure of maintaining the image of an A-list star, both having to keep up his acting performance and ensuring that every scene was perfect, and the character Danny Ocean still shone and created appeal for the entire cast. Each scene required maximum concentration, seamless coordination with famous colleagues like Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, or Julia Roberts, while maintaining naturalness and fluidity in every expression. Clooney's fame also caused the media and audience to set strict expectations. Every glance, smile, and demeanor of his was scrutinized and compared with previous appearances. In this context, Clooney was not only an actor performing the role, but also a brand image, the person conveying the spirit of the film, and the center of attention for both the crew and the international media. In the working process, Clooney gradually formed a professional attitude and team spirit. He learned to listen and coordinate with colleagues, share acting experience, and create a positive and effective working environment. Clooney not only performed his individual role but also played a connecting role with other actors, adjusting the rhythm of scenes so that everyone could shine. This professionalism not only helped the scenes flow smoothly and naturally, but also elevated the quality of the film, making Ocean's 11 become a standard for the entertainment film genre, combining action, humor, and suspense. Through that, Clooney also affirmed his spiritual leadership ability on set, becoming a model for balancing between the individual and the collective in a complex creative environment. Besides professional pressures, Clooney's success was also widely recognized through awards and professional evaluations. Ocean's 11 and its sequels brought him recognition from audiences as well as critics, consolidating Clooney's position in the film industry. He received many awards and nominations from prestigious film associations, affirming that his effort, perseverance, and resilient spirit had been duly rewarded. This success also opened up opportunities for Clooney in larger, more challenging film projects. From dramatic films to works with high artistic value like Syriana and Michael Clayton, where he continued to prove his excellent acting ability and maturity in every role. The success from Ocean's 11 not only brought Clooney fame and reputation, but also formed important qualities for his long-term career. The ability to withstand pressure, maintain performance under strict expectations, team spirit and professionalism, as well as the ability to combine personal creativity and collective collaboration. These experiences helped Clooney prepare better for subsequent roles and projects, learning to control the film's rhythm, build character images, and manage fame while still keeping himself honest and steadfast. Through Ocean's 11 and its sequels, George Clooney not only became an admired A-list star, but also a symbol of professionalism, team spirit, and the ability to overcome all pressures to create classic film works. This career peak was also proof that effort, patience, and the ability to learn from failure would help an artist overcome challenges, turning harsh pressures into opportunities to shine. Clooney learned that fame and success did not come only from luck or talent, but also from a serious work attitude, steadfastness in the face of challenges, and the ability to maintain oneself when standing in the midst of Hollywood's spotlight and pressure. It was precisely the turning point from Ocean's 11 that opened the door, taking him from a television actor to a global film icon, creating a solid foundation for subsequent achievements in both his career and personal life, becoming one of Hollywood's brightest stars. George Clooney not only had to face professional pressure, but also had to go through public emotional tragedies before finding true happiness with Amal. Before marriage, he had famous relationships with many stars, among which the most memorable were with Renée Zellweger and later the Italian beauty Elisabetta Canales, relationships that were once hunted and thoroughly exploited by the media. Every appearance with his girlfriend on the red carpet, every photo, every article became a topic of public discussion, making Clooney's private life almost completely invaded. The pressure from paparazzi, public opinion, and the media was not limited to monitoring the relationships, but also created a feeling of being scrutinized and losing freedom, forcing him to learn how to protect himself, keep distance, and at the same time maintain his public image. These pressures not only affected his spirit, but also impacted his emotions, making Clooney sometimes feel lonely even when standing in the middle of an admiring crowd. These relationships, although beautiful on the surface, also left deep emotional scars. When the relationships ended, Clooney not only lost the person he loved, but also had to face public pain, rumors, and non-stop scrutiny from the press. Every breakup became a wave of public opinion, pushing him into a state of loneliness and self-doubt. Through these experiences, Clooney realized that fame and popularity could be a double-edged sword. It brought opportunities and admiration, but it could also multiply mental pain when relationships broke down. The loss of trust in emotions made him have to learn on his own how to calm himself, reflect on his own feelings, and understand more deeply what was truly important in life. In this process, Clooney gradually learned a valuable maturity lesson about love and career. He realized that a public relationship under the spotlight and under public scrutiny was always different from normal life, and that to maintain a long-term relationship, trust, understanding, and the ability to endure pressure from all sides were needed. The emotional wounds from the breakups helped Clooney develop the ability to self-control, self-reflect, and adjust his view of love, thereby understanding that true happiness was not only based on emotional highs, but also on inner peace and the ability to balance between career and personal life. These public emotional events also helped him build the ability to withstand public opinion and control his own image, an important skill for a long film career. Clooney learned to stay calm in the face of rumors, maintain confidence and an elegant demeanor in the eyes of the public, and at the same time not let emotional failures reduce his motivation and determination in his profession. He understood that every relationship, whether successful or ending painfully, was a valuable experience that helped him grow, heightened his emotional sensitivity, and improved his ability to evaluate future relationships. These emotional experiences not only left pain, but also trained his will and ability to protect himself in the face of fame pressure. Clooney learned how to distinguish between admiration, love, and public curiosity, thereby creating a foundation for a balanced life where he could both maintain his film star image and protect his private life and personal values. These wounds and pressures, although difficult, helped form inner strength, making Clooney become a mature man who knew how to cherish real emotions and put family values, career, and character first. Through the public relationships and emotional tragedies, George Clooney learned to mature emotionally, understanding that love did not always come with perfection or public consensus. He realized that long-term happiness only came when one knew how to be patient, knew how to face failure, and knew how to nurture inner peace. The pains from the pre-marriage relationships became valuable experiences that helped him prepare ready for the destined relationship with Amal, where understanding, trust, and patience were put first, creating the foundation for the happy family and balanced life that Clooney has today. After many years of going through turbulent public relationships, George Clooney finally found a true life partner who could share both the spotlight and his private feelings when he met Amal Alamuddin in 2013. Amal was not only a talented human rights lawyer, but also a spiritual companion who understood the challenges Clooney had gone through in his career and personal life. From their first meetings, they felt a deep connection, a harmony that George had longed for since his lonely days before. After only a short time of dating, in 2014, Clooney and Amal held their wedding in Venice, a ceremony that was both formal and warm, where two hearts found harmony and peace after many years of wandering in the high-pressure showbiz world. Clooney's newly formed family brought him a sense of security and balance that he had never had before. In 2017, they welcomed twins Alexander and Ella, two little angels who brought joy, happiness, and new responsibilities into his life. Clooney and Amal decided to raise their children in France, a peaceful environment separated from the prying eyes and pressure of American media, to ensure that the children could grow up in privacy, learn and experience childhood as normally as possible. This decision reflected Clooney's vision and priority for family, part of his journey to find balance between his famous career and personal life. In family life, Clooney learned to share responsibilities and create bonding moments with his wife and children, from evening reading sessions with the kids, simple games in the garden, to guiding the children to understand the value of compassion and respect for others. He realized that although he had gone through countless upheavals and pressures in his career, true peace lay in simple things and sincere affection. Family became the place where he could rest, regain balance, and recharge energy for the film projects, productions, and humanitarian activities he continued to pursue. Marriage to Amal also helped Clooney mature more spiritually and emotionally. He learned to be patient, to listen, to share, and to maintain mutual respect in every decision, from caring for the children to managing his career and assets. Amal became the companion who supported him in facing every difficulty, from media pressure, ups and downs in his acting career, to health and age concerns. Amal's support and understanding helped Clooney reshape his personal life, knowing to put family values and personal happiness first, while still maintaining his position as an icon in the arts in Hollywood. Besides nurturing the family, Clooney and Amal also maintained a broad social vision, guiding their children to understand humanitarian values and responsibility to the community. They often shared with the children about charitable activities, helping children and refugees. thereby forming sensitivity and humanistic spirit in the children from a young age. Clooney always emphasized that family and career did not exclude each other, but needed to support each other, that a happy father and husband would be the foundation for him to continue contributing to art and society. The Clooney family was also the place that healed the emotional wounds from the past, the place where he could retreat from the spotlight, from the pressure of fame and media, to return to being an ordinary person who was loved and protected. The stability in family life helped Clooney regain his spirit after failures, broken relationships, and the years of enduring public opinion pressure before. This was the time when he truly realized that success and happiness were not only measured by awards or fame, but also by inner peace, connection with loved ones, and the ability to protect the most important personal values. The simple moments with family, the smiles of the children, and the understanding from Amal were the source of motivation for Clooney to continue facing challenging film projects and social activities. He learned to put affection and human values above the spotlight, turning personal experiences and past tragedies into motivation, teaching himself how to be patient, understanding, and love deeply. Marriage to Amal and the birth of the twins opened a new chapter, where George Clooney was not only a Hollywood icon, but also a father, a husband, and a person who found balance and peace after years full of upheavals, challenges, and loneliness. After finding peace in his personal life and building a happy family with Amal and the two twins, George Clooney stepped into a new chapter in his career with the role of director and producer, challenging himself in a field where his previous fame and acting skills could not fully guarantee success. With Good Night and Good Luck, a work that recreated the American journalism context of the 1950s and the struggle against McCarthy, Clooney not only took on the role of director, but also participated in production and played the lead role. This was a risky move, because the political theme and sensitive tone of the film required him to maintain accuracy, authenticity, and respect for history, while conveying the message in a convincing and engaging way. Clooney spent months researching materials, rewriting the script, negotiating with producers, choosing settings, lighting, and music to create a work that was both artistic and truly reflective of history. That effort was rewarded when Good Night and Good Luck received 3 Oscar nominations, in which Clooney was highly praised for his directing ability and artistic vision. This success not only brought fame, but also affirmed his comprehensive capability in film, from acting to production and directing. However, along with fame came an invisible pressure. Clooney had to maintain artistic value and authenticity in every scene, every line of dialogue, and in the way he conveyed the message, while still maintaining creativity, aesthetics, and film quality. Every decision on set was heavy and could affect the entire result, requiring him to focus absolutely, consider carefully, and adjust flexibly every detail. Not stopping at Good Night and Good Luck, Clooney continued to develop his role as director and producer with Argo, a political film based on a true event related to the Iran hostage crisis. Clooney took on the role of producer, investing his heart and soul into every stage, from script development, choosing the director, coordinating with actors, to supervising every important scene. The pressure in this project was not only to create an engaging and authentic film, but also to face the strict expectations of Hollywood, the audience, and critics. Every scene, every small detail had to be perfectly controlled to ensure historical accuracy, while still maintaining the dramatic and captivating rhythm of the film. Clooney spent hours on set, closely following every production stage, sometimes refusing all outside invitations to focus completely on the project, which meant sacrificing a lot of time for family, rest, and even his own health. The achievements from Argo further consolidated Clooney's reputation. The film won the Oscar for Best Picture and received many awards and recognition from professionals. However, along with success came continuous mental and physical challenges. Clooney shared that balancing the responsibilities of director, producer, actor, and family role was one of the biggest pressures he had ever experienced. This balance required him to always maintain focus and decisiveness, while knowing how to allocate energy so as not to be overwhelmed. The long weeks of filming, stressful production meetings, along with traveling and participating in promotional events, often put Clooney into a state of fatigue, tension, and heavy mental pressure. Under this pressure, Clooney learned to manage time, energy, and mind scientifically. He arranged every small detail from the shooting schedule, production meetings, acting to caring for family and maintaining health. Clooney also realized that to achieve high standards in art, personal sacrifice was indispensable, from rest time to private moments with family. Every decision related to the project was carefully considered by him, and he learned to accept pressure as an inevitable part of the profession, turning stress into motivation to perfect the work excellently. The directing and producing experiences also helped Clooney develop his artistic vision and leadership ability, while training his patience, endurance, and team coordination skills. He was not only the project coordinator but also the inspirer, guiding actors and the crew to understand the spirit of the film, while ensuring that every scene reflected the message and artistic value accurately. Clooney learned that success did not only come from fame or personal skills, but also depended on the ability to coordinate, build trust, and inspire those around him, from the director, cinematographer to actors and post-production staff. Sacrifice and pressure in the roles of director and producer have become an indispensable part in Clooney's journey, helping him mature not only artistically but also spiritually and in character. He learned to take absolute responsibility for every decision, to face failure if a project did not succeed, and to maintain his composure in the face of harsh scrutiny from audiences and the media. Through these challenges, Clooney affirmed that a film career is not just about the spotlight, but also about effort, sacrifice, and persistent will. And these very experiences have shaped a well-rounded George Clooney, an excellent actor, director, and producer, as well as a person who knows how to balance art, family, and social responsibility. It was precisely from the pressures, sacrifices, and challenges in his roles as director and producer that Clooney learned the value of dedication, knew how to cherish every creative moment, and understood that true success is not measured only by awards or fame, but also by the ability to maintain artistic values, character, and personal happiness throughout the long journey. Through Good Night and Good Luck and Argo, he proved that even when stepping away from the spotlight, Clooney remained a symbol of professionalism, endurance, and resilience in the challenging world of Hollywood. Beyond the spotlight of the screen and the brilliant successes in his roles as actor, director, and producer, George Clooney is also known as a symbol of compassion and social responsibility, continuously using his fame and influence to fight for the vulnerable and urgent global issues. In 2012, he co-founded the Clooney Foundation for Justice, a non-profit organization aimed at promoting human rights, supporting victims of legal injustice, and protecting vulnerable communities around the world. This organization has participated in many projects, from improving living conditions for refugees, supporting orphan children, to protecting the rights of individuals oppressed in conflict-torn countries. Clooney devoted a large part of his time, effort, and personal resources to ensure that these issues were brought to the attention of international media and the public, while influencing policymakers to create real and sustainable change. In addition to the Clooney Foundation for Justice, George Clooney was appointed by the United Nations as a UN Messenger of Peace, a role he used to raise awareness about humanitarian crises, human rights issues, and global security. He participated in campaigns to support refugee children, advocated for governments to intervene to protect vulnerable communities, and used his personal image to draw the world's media attention to issues that many others might overlook. These activities not only demonstrated his sense of social responsibility, but also reflected Clooney's deep empathy, compassion, and genuine concern for the pain, loss, and injustice that people must endure. Clooney's dedication to humanitarian work did not stop at speaking out or advocating. He personally participated in field trips, met with refugees, orphan children, and war victims, and listened to their painful stories to truly understand their real needs. These experiences left a profound mark on Clooney's mind, reinforcing his determination and will to use his fame, resources, and personal influence to do something meaningful for society. Clooney often said that awards, red carpets, or fame no longer mattered as much as being able to help one person, save one life, or change a terrible situation for the better. His contributions did not stop at humanitarian projects, but also created great influence on the public, inspiring other artists and individuals to participate in social activities. Many people see Clooney not only as a Hollywood icon, but also as a role model for how to use power, fame, and talent to create positive change. Every time Clooney appeared at a campaign event, international conference, or participated in an interview about social issues, he emphasized the importance of taking action rather than just standing by, encouraging everyone not to hesitate to speak up or get involved to protect humanitarian values. Clooney also devoted time to coordinating with non-governmental organizations, policymakers, leaders, and communities to implement specific programs, from educating refugee children, providing basic medical services, to offering legal support for oppressed victims. His direct and serious involvement helped humanitarian projects become not just symbolic but also practically effective, changing the lives of many people. Clooney always emphasized that using personal influence was not only a responsibility, but also a way to express compassion in a practical and sustainable manner. Through his tireless efforts, Clooney has proven that a Hollywood career and social activities can go hand in hand, and he is a living example, showing that fame and power can be used to bring benefits to those in need. These humanitarian activities not only strengthened George Clooney's image in the eyes of the public, but also helped him realize the true value of life, thereby balancing the spotlight, career, and responsibility to the community. It is thanks to this spirit of compassion, empathy, and persistent will that George Clooney is not only an admired film star, but also a symbol of a person with a kind heart, dedication, and the courage to stand up for what is right in society. Throughout this journey, Clooney has turned his fame and personal power into tools to change the lives of others, create lasting impacts on communities, and at the same time strengthen his own belief that fame is not only the ultimate goal, but also a means to serve profound humanitarian values. It is precisely the way Clooney balances career, fame, and social responsibility that has created the image of a well-rounded person, a star who not only shines on screen, but also illuminates compassion and responsibility toward the world. Stepping into his 60s, George Clooney began to realize that time and age were new challenges that no spotlight or fame could hide. Even though he still held the position of one of Hollywood's top stars, Clooney had to face pressures about health, physical condition, and mental state every time he stepped onto a set, joined film projects, or attended promotional events. Every scene, every long trip, every packed schedule demanded that he maintain high energy, keep a radiant demeanor, and precision in acting. Even though his body was no longer as agile as in his youth, long shooting days, standing for many hours under hot lights, constantly moving between cities and countries, sometimes made Clooney clearly feel accumulated fatigue, and body aches that he used to ignore now became a constant concern. To overcome these pressures, Clooney maintained a regular exercise routine and strict body care. He combined strength training, yoga, swimming, and activities that helped maintain cardiovascular health, body flexibility, and weight control. Exercise not only helped him keep his physique and health, but also became his way to cope with mental stress, training his will and determination in the face of professional challenges. Clooney often said that his body was his most important asset, and to continue contributing to art, He had to take care of it seriously and could not rely on fame or career to compensate for physical shortcomings. However, old age also brought small but persistent health issues. Clooney sometimes had to face muscle aches, joint problems, back pain, or shoulder fatigue due to constant traveling and filming pressure. Those days, shooting outdoors in harsh conditions, or action scenes requiring continuous body movement, all made his body feel more tired, but he never let that hinder his spirit or the quality of his acting. Clooney learned to listen to his body, rest at the right time, combine physical therapy and gentle exercises to maintain his ability to function, while keeping his performance and professionalism in front of the cast and audience. What is admirable is Clooney's persistent will and endurance in the face of all health incidents and signs of aging. He did not let the pain or fatigue reduce the pace of his work, nor did he allow them to affect his creative spirit. Clooney understood that maintaining the flexibility of his body meant the ability to sustain a long career, and he faced each day, each scene as a challenge to overcome. It was precisely this steadfastness and determination that helped him not only survive but also shine on screen and in his personal life, even when age and health created unavoidable barriers. Old age and health also made Clooney rethink the way he balanced work and personal life. He learned to allocate time reasonably, prioritize rest, care for family, and maintain healthy habits, from diet to exercise. These measures not only helped his body withstand work pressure, but also helped him keep an optimistic spirit and focus in every project. Clooney turned health challenges into opportunities to train his will, improve his self-management ability, and maintain creative energy, proving that even when age no longer supported him, spirit and resilience remained the decisive factors for him to continue shining. These experiences also taught Clooney an important lesson about endurance, patience, and the value of the body in life and career. Every time he felt pain or fatigue, he reminded himself that a Hollywood career was not just about the spotlight or awards, but also about the ability to maintain health, alertness, and energy for each role. Thanks to that resilient spirit, Clooney not only overcame health incidents but also continued to contribute, maintaining his elegant demeanor, natural charm, and leadership ability on set, while inspiring colleagues and the younger generation of artists about perseverance, the will to overcome difficulties, and self-belief. Throughout this period, George Clooney proved that health and age were not barriers if accompanied by will and discipline. He maintained the ability to work effectively, participated in film projects, directing and producing activities, while still making time for family and social activities. Through all the challenges to his body and age, Clooney still kept his style, creativity, and continuous dedication, proving that endurance and persistent will were the key to helping him overcome every incident, maintain success and happiness in life. After the health and age challenges, George Clooney continued to affirm his position in the film industry with modern projects, where he was not only an actor but also strongly developed his roles as director and producer. In Gravity, the science fiction film that made a strong impression globally, Clooney not only demonstrated subtle acting ability but also worked closely with the director, technicians, and colleagues to ensure every scene achieved maximum realism and appeal. The film required Clooney to apply all his acting experience as well as alertness in a high-tech environment, facing complex scenes on green screen, and maintaining naturalness in every expression to create a feeling of suspense and authenticity for the audience. Through that, he showed the ability to combine acting with artistic vision, turning technical challenges into opportunities to enhance his own capabilities. Clooney continued to participate in projects like The Monuments Men, a historical film that required a delicate balance between action, humor, and humanity, as well as Suburbicon, where he took on the role of director, coordinating with the screenwriter, actors, and film crew to ensure the artistic quality and message of the film were fully conveyed. These projects required Clooney to focus highly, solve many arising issues from acting, lighting, sound to scene composition, while maintaining a dense work pace. The creative pressure in modern films came not only from technical and aesthetic requirements, but also from the expectations of audiences, media, and producers, demanding that Clooney continuously maintain high standards and innovate his artistic thinking so as not to disappoint everyone's trust. In the working process, Clooney had to sacrifice time and health to ensure the project was executed perfectly. The long shooting sessions, busy schedules, and constant travel between locations and countries made his body tired, but his professional spirit helped him overcome everything. Clooney learned to balance between work and health, using reasonable rest periods to recover energy, while maintaining focus and leadership ability on set. He always put the quality of the work and the consensus of the crew first, demonstrating patience, dedication, and the ability to manage pressure effectively. The experiences from Gravity, The Monuments Men, and Suburbicon helped Clooney consolidate his professionalism and relentless effort, creating a foundation for subsequent projects and enhancing his reputation in the film industry. Clooney was not only concerned with commercial success, but also placed emphasis on artistic quality, the authenticity of characters, and the message of the film. He continuously sought opportunities to learn, experiment with new techniques, and collaborate with different directors, screenwriters, and actors to create the best product. This process not only improved his personal skills, but also helped him become a role model for professionalism, steadfastness, and dedication in the eyes of colleagues and audiences. Clooney also utilized these modern projects to combine with social and humanitarian activities. He uses influence to bring issues of human rights, children's rights, and community protection to the media, combining the role of artist with social responsibility. The balance between film work, the role of director, and social activities required him to maintain persistent will and a high sense of responsibility, while learning to manage pressure, keep his style and energy in every project. Those years proved that even though he was in his 60s, Clooney still maintained his creative ability, relentless effort, and professional demeanor. He continued to prove that a film career is not only about fame and awards, but also about the ability to maintain artistic standards, train a resilient spirit, and dedicate himself to noble values. Through modern films, George Clooney continued to affirm his position as a well-rounded artist who shone on screen while upholding humanistic spirit and social responsibility, and at the same time became a role model for resilience, professional ethics, and relentless dedication. After years full of upheavals in his career and modern film projects, George Clooney found a solid spiritual anchor and true joy in his current family and personal life. Together with his wife, human rights lawyer Amal Clooney, he built a peaceful and warm home where the Hollywood spotlight, stressful projects, or media pressure could not penetrate. Here, Clooney devoted time to caring for, nurturing, and raising his children with dedication. The two twin angels, Alexander and Ella, became the center of his life, bringing joy, laughter, and a sense of completeness that he had once longed for since his lonely childhood. Clooney often directly participated in the daily moments with his children, teaching them to swim, guiding basic skills for independence, reading books with them, playing in the garden, and encouraging the children to develop creativity while conveying values of compassion, respect, and responsibility. Every afternoon, he turned small moments into valuable lessons, not only training the body, but also building a solid spiritual foundation for the children. At the same time, Clooney paid special attention to protecting the family's privacy, avoiding letting the prying eyes of the media and paparazzi affect the normal development of the children. His family chose to live in France, a place with a quiet, safe space completely separated from the excessive scrutiny of American press, to ensure the children could experience childhood fully. Every decision related to appearing in public or participating in events was carefully considered, with the goal of both maintaining his personal image and protecting the family's privacy and happiness. Clooney understood that after all the spotlight and fame, family was the place that kept him calm, restored his energy, and helped him find real meaning in life. Besides caring for the children and maintaining family life, Clooney also invested time, finances, and intelligence into real estate projects and a stable lifestyle. He owned spacious homes in France and Los Angeles, seaside properties, and real estate worth millions of dollars, all designed to provide comfortable, quiet, and private living spaces. Clooney also owned a collection of luxury cars, including the McLaren Senna, Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Aston Martin, each not only a means of transportation but also reflecting a sophisticated, classy lifestyle and attention to quality experiences. However, he did not let these assets dominate his life, but used them as tools for the family to have comfort, safety, and joy. What is special in Clooney's current life is the balance between career and family. Even though he continued to act in films, participate in production and directing projects, as well as maintain humanitarian activities, he always made time for family. Clooney planned his work flexibly, knowing how to allocate energy to both complete his professional roles and participate in daily activities with his wife and children. On every break, he gave the children trips, cultural experiences, and important life lessons, helping them understand the value of connection, love, and personal responsibility. The efforts to maintain a happy family and balanced life also reflected Clooney's maturity and deep awareness of his earlier years full of loneliness, pressure, and failure. He understood that fame, career, or awards only had meaning when there was also a warm home with love, protection, and simple joy. It was from that experience that Clooney learned to put family first, find peace and true happiness, while still maintaining his creativity, passion, and iconic status in Hollywood. George Clooney's current life is proof that an artist can reach the peak of his career while still preserving character, affection, and inner peace. The combination of caring for children, protecting the family from scrutiny, investing in a quality lifestyle, and maintaining an artistic career shows that Clooney is not only a film star, but also a role model for balancing the spotlight, responsibility, and personal emotions. This very balance creates inner strength, helping him continue to face every challenge in work, maintain a sustainable career, and inspire both audiences and the younger generation of artists on how to live a meaningful life, achieving success while cherishing the deep values in life. Looking back at his entire journey, George Clooney understands that life is not just about stage lights, awards, or fame, but also about how a person faces challenges, upheavals, and tragedies to grow and find real meaning. His childhood, although born into an artistic family, was still full of instability and loneliness, with parents who were busy and constantly moving, making him learn early to be independent, adapt, and endure deep loneliness. These experiences formed a resilient foundation for Clooney, teaching him that even when lacking support from adults, a person could still find inner strength to stand firm and develop. The loneliness, early failures on television, repeated rejections for roles, and shocks in his early film career not only tested his endurance, but also taught Clooney how to turn pain into motivation, how to train his will to overcome pressure, and to keep learning and improving himself. The public relationships, failures in emotional life, and pressure from public opinion were also important incidents in forming Clooney's life philosophy. Every time he faced criticism, scrutiny, or breakups in relationships, he learned to protect himself, keep distance, and at the same time understand more deeply the value of true love, patience, and loyalty. Through these experiences, Clooney realized that long-term happiness did not come from external spotlight, but from inner peace, from sincere relationships, and the ability to maintain personal values, a lesson he later applied in his marriage to Amal and in the way he raised his children. In his career, from early film failures to resounding advances with Ocean's 11, Gravity, The Monuments Men, Clooney learned to be resilient in the face of professional pressure, knowing how to balance creativity, fame, and artistic quality. Every film, whether successful or difficult, was an opportunity for him to train patience, leadership ability, and team spirit. Clooney understood that maintaining a sustainable career depended not only on talent, but also on will, a sense of responsibility, and the ability to adapt to upheavals, a lesson he once drew from his unstable childhood and early failures. Clooney's life philosophy was further reinforced by his humanitarian and social activities. With the Clooney Foundation for Justice and his role as UN Messenger of Peace, he used his influence to fight for human rights, support refugees, protect children, and vulnerable communities. These efforts reflected compassion, deep empathy, and the ability to turn fame into a tool to create positive impact in the world. Clooney was not only concerned with personal success, but also placed human values, social responsibility, and humanitarianism first, turning his life into an example of resilience, humanity, and dedication. Family was also an important part of Clooney's life philosophy. After many years of loneliness and going through turbulent public relationships, marriage to Amal and the birth of the twins brought him a solid foundation of love and happiness. Clooney learned to balance between the Hollywood spotlight and family life, between professional pressure and the responsibilities of being a father and husband. This balance not only helped him maintain a sustainable career, but also created a loving, protective, and nurturing environment for the children, where humanistic values, affection, and responsibility were placed first. From an unstable childhood, early failures on television and film, to professional pressures, emotional incidents, health issues, and age, George Clooney turned every challenge into a valuable lesson, every tragedy into motivation to train his will and grow. He proved that success and happiness do not only come from fame or awards, but also from the ability to endure, be resilient, and turn pain into strength. Clooney is a living example of how a person can overcome adversity, hold firm to himself, develop talent and character, and at the same time contribute positively to society. The experiences from childhood, career, relationships, and humanitarian activities have shaped a well-rounded George Clooney, who is both an excellent actor, director, and producer, as well as a father, husband, humanitarian, and humanistic icon. His life philosophy emphasizes resilience, compassion, relentless will, and the ability to create positive value, inspiring audiences, colleagues, and the younger generation of artists. Through it all, Clooney has become a role model for overcoming tragedy, turning challenges into strength, and maintaining balance between career, family, and social responsibility, proving that real spotlight only has meaning when accompanied by heart, character, and relentless dedication. Looking back at George Clooney's 64-year journey, from the unstable, lonely, and challenging days of his childhood to becoming one of the most admired cinematic icons in the world, one can clearly see a complete picture of his resilience, determination, and boundless compassion. Clooney's childhood, growing up in an artistic family but lacking stability and full attention, taught him lessons about independence, endurance, and how to stand firm when most had fallen. Those experiences shaped a person who knew how to observe, learn, and train his will from a very early age, preparing him for the challenging steps ahead in his television and film career. Early failures on the television screen, repeated rejections for roles, and initial flops in film that seemed like they could extinguish his passion, became stepping stones for Clooney to learn how to turn pressure into motivation and turn wounds into inner strength. Through From Dusk Till Dawn, Batman and Robin, and other supporting roles, he trained his patience, his ability to withstand pressure from public opinion and the media, while developing diverse, subtle acting skills that were both natural and captivating. These difficult steps not only helped him mature, but also built the foundation for the subsequent peak milestones. Moving into A-list film, with resounding successes from Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12 to Gravity and Argo, Clooney not only achieved fame, revenue, and awards, but also went through harsh pressures, having to maintain the quality of his roles and image under the eyes of the whole world. He learned to combine professionalism team spirit, and leadership ability on set, knew how to inspire his colleagues, and trained his steadfastness to overcome every difficulty. Every film, every project was a challenge to his strength, spirit, and will, but also an opportunity for Clooney to affirm his creativity, artistic vision, and ability to rise above all limits. In his personal life, after many years of public relationships, emotional wounds, and pressure from public opinion, George Clooney finally found peace and complete happiness when he met Amal. Marriage to Amal and the birth of the twins brought him a loving family life, where he could protect his children from prying eyes, teach them important life values, and at the same time learn how to balance between work, career, and personal life. Family became the place that healed wounds from the past, where Clooney found joy, peace, and motivation to continue contributing to art and social activities. Alongside his career and family, Clooney never stopped using his fame and influence to change the world around him. Through the Clooney Foundation for Justice and his role as UN Messenger of Peace, he fought for human rights, supported refugees, protected children, and vulnerable communities. He devoted time, effort, and personal resources to ensure that humanitarian projects brought real results, while inspiring the public and other artists on how to use power and influence for noble goals. These actions not only strengthened his reputation, but also created a humanistic legacy, proving that Clooney is a symbol of compassion and social responsibility. Old age and health did not diminish Clooney's dynamic pace of life. He maintained regular exercise, took care of his body, faced aches, fatigue, and still completed film projects, directing and producing. His endurance, persistent will, and professional spirit have become an example of determination and steadfastness for colleagues, audiences, and the younger generation of artists. Clooney proved that no matter what challenges he faced, a person could still rise, maintain passion, and give their all. George Clooney's 64-year journey perfectly connects his tragic childhood, career failures, work pressures, emotional incidents, and social responsibility, thereby forming a well-rounded person who shone on screen while being a father, husband, humanitarian, and humanistic icon. Clooney showed that every adversity could become an opportunity, every failure could train the will, and every challenge could create strength if faced with determination and steadfastness. The dominant emotion throughout this journey is compassion, tragedy, honor, and inspiration. Compassion for the lonely childhood years and early failures, tragedy in the constant pressures and challenges, honor for his determination, dedication, and superior talent, and inspiration for the audience that anyone can overcome adversity, find happiness, and build a lasting legacy. George Clooney's life is vivid proof that success is not only measured by awards or revenue, but also by the way a person stands firm, contributes, and spreads humanistic values throughout his journey. His 64 years close with the image of a George Clooney who is both a renowned star, a devoted father and husband, a resilient humanitarian, and a person who knows how to balance the spotlight, social responsibility, and family happiness. Through upheavals, challenges, pressures, and successes, Clooney has proven that life, though full of changes, can still become a journey honoring determination, dignity, and love, leaving the world a Hollywood legacy not only in art, but also in timeless human values. George Clooney is a living proof of the journey overcoming adversity from a lonely childhood, family pressure to early failures in television and film careers, public relationships full of wounds and public scrutiny, but still rising to become a well-rounded Hollywood icon. His story evokes compassion when looking back at young George, who had to be independent, faced deep loneliness, and painful failures on ER, as well as in flop films like Batman and Robin. We see the mental pain when public relationships like those with Renee Zellweger or Elisabetta Canales caused him wounds, loss of trust, and taught him how to protect himself in front of the public eye. But at the same time, The story also makes readers admire when seeing that Clooney not only overcame, but also turned those challenges into motivation to perfect himself, develop acting skills, professional spirit, and leadership ability on set. The image of Clooney, from an abandoned boy, a rejected supporting actor, to a top star, Oscar-winning director and producer, humanitarian, and devoted father, demonstrates extraordinary endurance and persistent will, especially his maintaining a happy family with Amal, raising 2 children in France, protecting privacy from the media, while continuing film projects and humanitarian work, emphasizes the ability to balance the spotlight and humanistic values. The lesson for the American people is that no matter what background one comes from, no matter the pressure or failure one endures, a person can still rise through resilience, persistent will, the ability to learn from failure, and a humanistic spirit, building a career, a happy family, and positive influence for the community, turning incidents into the foundation for a lasting legacy. Please hit like and subscribe to the channel to together honor George Clooney's extraordinary journey. From the lonely days to becoming the well-rounded Hollywood icon we have just explored. Thank you for accompanying us, and see you in the next video to continue exploring inspiring stories about determination, compassion, and success against all odds.